Check, 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 check. All right. Good afternoon, Southwestern. Welcome to Assembly. It is so great to see each and every one of you. As you're coming in, please find your seats. And as we start our assembly for today, we have a quick announcement from our campus food pantry.
Good afternoon. Is this on? I don't think so. Hello?
Now it is.
Now it's on. I just wanted to come with my two assistants, friends here who helped me with the food pantry. I've taught here for 40 years, and about 7 years ago, I realized that there were some students that were hungry in class. And maybe not all of you, but some live off campus and in apartments, and they live on their own or with roommates and didn't have enough money to buy food. We're eating top ramen every day or rice, and was kind of slim in the food area. So I got together and started talking to some people and started handing out bags of food from my office. And I did that in, for one semester. And then the next semester I talked with Dean Tay, and we worked it out to have it at the Student Center. So they've given me a room for extra cans and things for those of you who live off campus. And then we open it up for the dorm. So all students can come, and if you want something a little bit more than what you got maybe during the day, you can come and help yourself. It's free. You can get a bag and fill it up with whatever. And we don't know what we get. We a lot of times we are given some things, and it's just a variety. So I want to invite you. I want you to know about it. I've had many times in the last few years, students come the last Wednesday of the semester. They say, "Oh, I didn't know about this." And I say, "Well, where have you been?" We send out a text message every week. Dean Tay does, and we announce it. But we will be in the Student Center, which you all know where that is, every Wednesday from now until the end of the semester. Okay, except for Thanksgiving break, which you won't be here, and during test week, we're not open. So any Wednesday from 1 to 5, come over there, and we'll be happy to give you whatever food we have. And these are my special people. When I'm not here, then they take over. Joyce, yeah, right. Joyce and Sandy, both of them helped me so much. And Joyce has been with me all 7 years, all 6 years. This is our 6th year that we've had a food pantry for students. It's for students only. It's not for your mom and dad and for that. I'm sensitive to my students, and I love my students that I've had, and I wanted to make sure that when you're in my classroom, your stomach isn't growling. So be sure and come by and see us. Any questions? Okay, well, come see us and ask questions if you do.
All right, as we start today for our assembly, today's assembly is a special assembly. It is our Constitution Assembly here at Southwestern, and it's all about what it means to be a civic citizen here in our community, how we can give back to our local community, and just be good citizens. As we get started, I want to start with a word of prayer, then I would love to introduce our speaker. Will you pray with me? Lord our God, we want to thank you so much for the rain outside. Lord, thank you for this amazing university, for these students. Lord, I just pray that you continue to bless them in their studies, in their lives, continue to guide them in the path that you have for them. And today, Lord, as we hear from Judge Bedeker, We just pray that you open our eyes on how we can better serve this community for your glory. We love you, Lord, and in your name I pray. Amen. Today, our speaker for today is Johnson County Judge Bedeker. Judge Bedeker and his wife, Andrea, are lifelong residents of Johnson County. They reside in Cleburne, where they are raising their children. Before taking the bench, Judge Bedeker served as a prosecutor in Johnson County for 8 years and served on the Cleburne City Council. He is a graduate of Cleburne High School, Baylor University, and Baylor Law School. The county judge serves as the presiding officer for the Commissioner's Court. In Johnson County, the county judge serves as the budget officer, chief executive for the county, overseeing many of the county's day-to-day operations. Other responsibilities include emergency management, public policy, presiding over the election commission, serving on various boards, appointing members to several boards. The county judge also has judicial responsibilities, presiding over the mental commitments and administrative hearings, among others. So as you can see, Judge Bedeker has a long list of responsibilities, but we are just so blessed to have him here today. On a personal note, I've had the opportunity to get to know Judge Bedeker very closely. He is a godly man, a down-to-earth man, and if you have the opportunity, I would invite you to get to know him after Assembly. Judge, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Austin, for the kind words. I hope you didn't set the bar too high. I was invited here to speak, and I think a lot of speakers come and they want to talk about themselves, and I'm not going to bore you guys with that. I think Mr. Powell did probably more justice than I deserved in that introduction. So I want to talk to you about the Constitution. I am an attorney. My background is as a prosecutor for the county and now as a judge, and so the Constitution is something that's very important to me. Constitution Day is celebrated each year to commemorate the signing of the United States Constitution in 1787. At the time it was signed, the Constitution was unique in that it intentionally put the power and the responsibility of government into the hands of the people. And today it stands as the world's oldest and shortest national constitution. The Constitution, along with its 27 amendments, established several rights and duties for American citizens. And a lot of times I think we focus on what those rights are, but sometimes we don't talk about what the duties or responsibilities are that go along with it. So we're familiar, for example, with the freedom of the press, freedom of religion, I know is important to all of us, the freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, the right to vote, the right to assemble. These are defining trademarks of what it is to be an American. But each of those rights carries with it an obligation that we all need to fulfill. If we don't fulfill our responsibility that's incumbent on each of us, then society starts to fall apart. So we talk about rights and responsibilities that go with it. If you're sued or if you're arrested, if you ever find yourself in the court system, you have the right to a fair trial. It's not something you can expect everywhere in the world, but it's something that's very near and dear to my heart. You have the right to an attorney. You get to hire or be appointed a counsel who is trained in the law, who understands how the process works, and can assist you through that process. You have the right to have your case considered by a jury of your peers. So if you appear in front of a judge, that judge doesn't necessarily get to make decisions about whether you're guilty or not, or who should win a civil case. In fact, Texas is I believe the only state in the union that allows you to have a trial to a jury of your peers on a speeding ticket. Hopefully that's the only interaction any of you might have with the court system. It's the only interaction a lot of us have with the court system, unless we work there. And you can demand a jury trial. You can have a jury of your peers come in, serve on jury duty, and decide if you were speeding or not. But these rights only work if citizens are willing to serve on juries. They only work if people are willing to consider both sides of a case. They only work if judges are able and willing to enforce the law. And they only work if every participant in the trial plays by the same rules and they play fair. You have the right to vote in an election, but the right to vote carries with it obligations as well. You need to educate yourself on the issues and the candidates, and you need to vote in the best interest of your community. Don't listen to a 30-second soundbite and decide, that's the guy for me, he doesn't like the same people I don't like. Listen to where someone stands and what vision they have for the future of your community. You have the right to free speech. We can all say whatever we want to say, right? However, free speech really works the best and really only works if everybody speaks the truth. It only works when, if we disagree, we argue in good faith with one another and we listen to one another. Internally in my office, one of the things we talk about is, unless you can tell me why the other side, what their best argument is and why you disagree with it, you're not ready to make a decision. And I think that's important when we talk about public discourse. If you only agree with one side every time you talk to somebody, if you don't listen to the other side because they're the bad guys, you're really missing out on an opportunity to collaborate and work to the best of your community. You have the right to a democracy. That's a representative form of government that derives its power from the consent of the governed. Again, the United States was pretty unique when the Constitution was signed 250 years ago. Wait, where are we? That's why they don't let me do math. I apologize. But it still stands as the world's oldest and shortest national constitution. The fact that it's the shortest constitution is important. That means it's flexible. It's interpreted by our courts. It's fairly administered for all people. But it's the oldest because it created a new form of government. Democracies and representative governments trace their roots back to the Greek and Roman days, some predating the birth of Christ. So democracy is not a new concept in and of itself, but a system where multiple branches of government, where representatives are selected by the people, where the people have the ability to hold their government accountable, is something new and it is something important. But government only works when good people are willing to serve and when good people are willing to engage with their government at every level. And engagement with every level of government is something that I'm very passionate about. When it comes to politics, most of us spend our time worrying and thinking about national politics. Who's going to be the next president? Who's going to have the House or the Senate? And I think most of us spend most of our time interacting with local government, with local politics. Your city, if you live in the city of Keene or you live in a surrounding city, is typically the entity that's going to provide you with police. They provide you with fire, they provide you with ambulance services, they pave most of the roads that you drive on. You interact with the city government every day if you live in the city. If you interact with law enforcement in any way, you will interact with county government. The Johnson County Sheriff's Office is the largest law enforcement agency within the county. The county also operates the court system, from JP courts for traffic tickets all the way through district courts for murder cases. The jail is operated by the county. Hopefully you don't interact with any of those things. We don't want to see any of you guys at the Johnson County Jail, but know that it's there and it's part of the justice system, and it's administered by local politicians that live among you and administer these items. And so why is engagement with local government important? It's because that is your opportunity to have a say in what your society looks like. When new neighborhoods or commercial developments are built, builders and developers go through an approval process with your local government, either the city or the county. That's done at a local level. All of this adds up to a local government that has a tremendous impact on what your community looks like and what it feels like. When we talk about the way that Keene is, it has a small town feel and it's a close-knit community. That is not just due to government. Government doesn't solve everybody's problems, but having a local government that is responsive to its people is an essential part of that recipe. There's a reason that Austin and Dallas and Fort Worth and Houston all seem very different from one another and also seem very different from here. There's a reason that Keene and Alvarado and Joshua and Cleburne all feel just a little bit different. If you drive downtown and get out of your car, it's just a little bit different place. And a lot of that, not all of it, but a lot of it does come down to local government and how the citizens engage with their local government. As you all sit here at various stages of your education at Southwestern, I can tell you that you guys will go on and have significant impacts on your community. When I was in college and law school, something we were told, and I think it holds true for you guys as well, is that when you go, wherever you put down roots, if you put down roots here in Keene or you end up in another country, you will become a member of the community that you move into where you put down roots. And people will seek you out for positions of leadership. You guys may not realize that when you finish here, regardless from where you came from or what your circumstances were before you came here, You will be in a position of privilege and a position of power. You will have a network of fellow alumni that you can rely on. You have a school that has deep roots in this community, and you will have an education that makes you among the most educated people in the world. About 30% or so of Texas residents have a college degree. That number is much, much smaller as you zoom out. And worldwide, it's not the norm to have to interact with people that have a bachelor's degree. So your communities are going to be looking for you to engage. There are boards, there are commissions, there are opportunities to volunteer, and the first name that comes to their mind is going to be people like you that come from a school that has a tradition of community-mindedness. You have the education necessary to make a difference, and you have an opportunity to have an impact on your community. So how do you engage? I think that's the hardest question to answer, and it's the most actionable one. It's easy for me to stand up here and tell you, go and do. It's harder to tell you how. I think the first thing you do is you look for opportunities to engage with your community, not necessarily your local government, but spend your time with the people that live around you. Volunteer your time. Meet your neighbors. Join a civic organization that brings together like-minded people. I met Mr. Powell because he and I are both members of the Keene Chamber of Commerce. That is a fantastic organization. For a city the size of Keene to have a chamber that is that large and that active, that rivals any of the other chambers in the county, I think is an impressive testament to the work that has gone in and the level of commitment that its members have to this community. Second, educate yourself on local issues, not just on politics, not just on policies, but what does your community need? Do you need a new road somewhere? Is there a road you drive on frequently that's filled with potholes? Do you need a new school? Do you need a new park? Is there a park that needs to be rehabilitated? You only know these things if you live in your community, you spend time in your community, and you listen to the voices around you. Learn what your community prioritizes. And I think that's an especially important point. Learn what your community says they prioritize, and then look where they spend their time and their money and see if those things align. If they do, you're lucky, and if they don't, work to change it. Third, serve your community. Local charities are always looking for people to donate their time and talent. I can tell you as somebody who's a member of a handful of various charitable organizations that our generation, my generation, I'm a millennial for what it's worth. I know you guys are probably Gen Z. Our generations are not well represented among volunteer organizations. Some of that's our fault. Some of it's the fact that my wife and I both work and we have 3 kids at home. One of them's a baby. That makes it real hard to volunteer a whole lot of my time. I understand. You guys are in school, you're going full time, and you're doing what you can to prepare for your future. But there will come a time when we are the majority of people, we're the only ones left. And I can tell you that many of the organizations I'm a part of are smaller year over year. Every year they lose a few members to retirement or to death, and those members are not replaced by people our ages. Some of those problems are the fact that a lot of those organizations meet in the middle of the workday for lunch, which is, it's great if you have the flexibility, but if you're working a 9-to-5 job or an 8-to-5 job like most of us are, it's hard to get away and hard to participate. But find opportunities to serve your community. You can also volunteer with your city. If you live in the city, most cities have boards and commissions that play a vital role in regulating growth and development. That set priorities for reinvesting into parks and streets and libraries, and sometimes even overseeing law enforcement. I can tell you that those boards and commissions are hard to fill. It's hard to find people that are willing to spend their time dedicated to their community and putting in the work. And if you're willing, I can tell you that coming from here, you will be able. Some of you may even have an opportunity as you move from here into your communities and into your rest of your grown-up lives to serve in an elected position. Mr. Powell mentioned I served on Cleburne City Council, and I found that to be incredibly rewarding. City council members in most cities are volunteer positions. It's not paid. And if you serve, you'll spend time and money running for office. You will lose money holding that office, and you'll donate time to the city. The only thing you get in return is an opportunity to have a say in what your community looks like as it grows. And anybody serving on a city council will tell you that that exchange is more than worth the bargain. That being able to influence what things look like on the ground because you were there and because you made it better is an unimaginably rewarding experience. Similarly, school boards are almost entirely, I believe, are all volunteer positions. Nobody gets paid to be on school board. They lose money holding the positions because they're expected to buy certain things and attend certain events. And then for their troubles, a lot of times they get yelled at because they're touching the two most sensitive areas for most people: their kids through education and their pocketbook through taxes. And so school board is a sometimes very thankless job, but it's also very rewarding, and it's incredibly important in determining how your kids receive an education. I can tell you from personal experience, that will be very important to most of you in the next 10 years or so. When I served on Cleburne City Council, for me, it meant about 10 hours a week of work that was unpaid. And it meant 2 nights a month that I was away from my young children because meetings were in the evenings. And so my wife was home alone with the kids and would tuck them in. But it also meant that I had an opportunity to work on improving my community one decision at a time. There are a lot of approaches to how you think government should function. For me, it was always anything that came in front of us, if I could make it just a little bit better, if we could incrementally improve things that came in front of us, then I thought we were doing our jobs to serve the citizens. Those projects ranged from street repaving projects to a new wastewater treatment plant, a $40 million investment into infrastructure in the city so that we would have toilets that work and faucets that turn on and roads that are drivable, things that are very important to the people that live there and pay the taxes there. The opportunity to serve your community and the responsibility to serve your community, I believe, is one of the most fundamental guarantees and responsibilities of the Constitution. If you're willing to work hard and put your community's needs ahead of your own, you have an opportunity to shape the world around you through engagement. And I believe that starts with local government. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Can I ask you a question? When you were in college, what types of civic responsibilities or duties did you participate in while you were in college, just as these guys are in?
That is a great question. Let me think back. It's been a couple of years. I was obviously engaged in my church. I'm from Cleburne. I went to Baylor, so I did not continue attending my home church. I found a church in Woodway, which is right next to Waco. Through there, we had a couple of volunteer programs that I engaged in. I also, we had a fundraiser program through the church that we engaged in that helped send kids on missions, and so that was a big part of what we did. I will say I never plugged into Waco, so I did not engage with local government there. That was not something that was on my radar when I was 18, 19 years old, but certainly community service was something that was important.
All right, thank you. And what are some tips that you would give to some of our students that are history, political science, or pre-law?
Okay. If you're pre-law, I am a lawyer. I loved practicing law. I'm one of the handful of people that will tell you I enjoyed law school. Not everybody does. It's kind of a beating. It's academically rigorous. And there are some of you that probably feel like you're not being challenged right now. And for me, that was sometimes the case. And when I was in undergrad, I worked hard, but I never felt like I had to work at full capacity. So when I went to law school, I did. Absolutely, everything that I had. Sometimes that meant 13 hours a day, 7 days a week to keep up with the workload. Having said that, don't go to law school unless you want to be a lawyer. Find a lawyer, ask some questions. I'm happy to answer those questions. I have many times said that law school is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. It's also one of the most rewarding, but only about half of law school graduates end up going on to practice law. And it's because it's an intense field of study and an intense field of work. So if it's what you want to do, make it happen. I'm happy to talk to anybody about it. And if you want to get to know me and have me write a letter of recommendation, I'd probably be happy to do that. But make sure it's something you want to do.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for, do we have any other questions? Those are the two that I thought about. Do you guys have any? How many of you guys are pre-law here? All right, so maybe come on up afterwards and spend some time and ask some questions. As we close, one other question is what from these guys here, what is there anything like in the city of Cleburne, because you're quite involved with Cleburne, is there anything from the city of Cleburne that you would say, hey, we need you guys now?
In terms of volunteering your time, yes, there are absolutely organizations that you can volunteer right now and make a difference in the world around you. One of the most important ones is, and has the least barriers to entrance, is called Christmas in Action. It's partially funded by the city of Cleburne, partially donation funded. And what they do is they maintain a list of dilapidated housing where low-income folks are living in houses that are not safe and not appropriate, and all around the year they rehab those homes. They work on them. They do everything from repairing siding, repairing roofs, installing window units, and you don't have to be skilled labor to do it. Right. They need many hands. Many hands make light work, and they absolutely need hands helping. If you contact them, they will find a group to plug you in with, or y'all have more than enough people here to organize into a group of 20 or so and go potentially rehab a house in a day. It's a little bit like Habitat for Humanity, if anybody's ever done that. I know I volunteered there when I was in college a handful of times, but this is for existing homes and for people in your community that are suffering because they can't afford to do it themselves.
Yeah. I think our SLAD team, Pastor Russ is there, I think our SLAD team is connected with that program. So let's remember in terms of our civic duties, our civic responsibilities. Can we give Judge Christopher a hand again? Thank you. All right. So I know that you guys are, some of you guys are still not receiving text messages for our updates and things that we're doing, activities and announcements. So just email me or text me and just say, hey, Dean, could you put me on that list? And we're still trying to figure out why some people aren't getting our text messages. But we also want to just, remind you guys of the different things that are going on. I know there's a lot of activities, so just keep your emails open and keep your text messages open. Look through those as well. Thank you, Mr. Powell, for getting our friend here. And if we have no more announcements, I'm going to have a quick prayer, and hopefully some of you guys will come up here and get to know our speaker a little bit more. Let's bow our heads. Lord, we thank you so much for this day. We thank you for this nice, cool, crisp weather. We just thank you for the rain that we so desperately need. Be with us now, Lord, as we go about our business, as we continue with classes and work and other responsibilities that we have as students here on this campus. And help us to remember the duties that we have as citizens, the opportunities that we have that we can give back to our community, and just the importance of the Constitution and how we can go about serving our community, serving our friends and families, and just giving us just the privilege of knowing, Lord, that we can be of service to anyone or to any group. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. All right, thank you. Have a wonderful day. Come on up here, some of you guys that will have some questions.